Good evening and welcome to the Buddy Martin Show. It's the Late Night Dilly Dilly.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye!
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening and welcome to a Monday night. It's the Late Night Dilly Dilly, the Buddy Martin Show. It's an off week, but you wouldn't know it. Talking to Gator fans, they're really relieved, excited, and cannot wait until the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. And yes, I've said it, and I'll say it again. I tweeted it out today. And I'm sick and tired of people telling us how to be politically correct. I get it. I know the history on it, all that kind of stuff. But bottom line is, we can call it what we want to. They can call it what they want to, and we can call it what we want to. And here, and in the Gator Nation Kingdom, is the Late Night Dilly Dilly Show here on a Monday night. And it's the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. Glad to be with you tonight. I see you're all checking in. Good evening to you, all you folks out there. Joanne checking in real soon. First one up, Joanne. David, Alexander, Becky Smith, Carlisle, Roger Burns, Ningbo China checking in. Roger, hope you're doing well over there in nature, buddy. Bill Pace, James Reed, David Fortune, Kurt, Lynn, Joe, Kevin, John, all you folks checking in tonight. Good to hear from you tonight. All right, we got some things to cover tonight. We'll have the Minister of Information, Greg Graham. He's the Chief of Police. Graham Hall will join us in about 10 minutes, and we'll get his take of the game, what's transpired since, what's ahead this weekend. We're going to take a look at the SEC standings, where we are now. We're at the halfway point, and what we expected to happen, what we see has happened, and what we think might happen in the second half. It's been a remarkable ride for some teams, namely the Florida Gators, and it far exceeds what even we said we thought it might happen when we started this whole thing about 10 months ago. And look, I'm a little bit aggravated with some of you people who said, well, where's your prediction now? You know, look, we do this every night, and we make our changing predictions because things change. And at one point in time, we thought the Gators might win 8, 9, or 10 games. As the season, as the spring went on and the quarterback thing settled in, we projected it out to 9, possibly 10. The Kentucky game all threw us a curveball. We misread that. That was not what we thought it was. So we backed it down. Maybe 8, 7, who knows? At one point in time, we talked 7. But I think we've seen clearly the credentials established now on the road. When you think about going on the road, Mississippi State winning a huge game, you look back at that game, you just can't imagine now how important that game was. Certainly, the big win over LSU, pulling that one out in Vanderbilt, that's a way for your team to mature, overcoming your own mistakes, hanging in there one time. They didn't just get hit in the mouth. They got hit in the mouth, punched in the groin, and somebody stomped them with hobnail boots. Things were going terrible. I got my whole notebook here. I took a lot of notes this week. And I went back and looked at it. And with 6 minutes to go in the third quarter, this game looked like it could be lost easily. Things were not going the right way, and then things happened. So I made a list of my BBPs, Buddy's biggest plays, and then I wrote down and circled some things, the moment of truth. There were several points in that game in Nashville where the game could have gone either way based on a play that had just happened. There was reason to fold your tents, and the Gators didn't fold their tents. So out of this comes strength, and I think Dan Mullen said it several times. They didn't follow the plan to win, but they won anyway. I likened it over the weekend to Tiger Woods back in his heyday, shooting a 78 and turning into a 71. Great teams and great players do that kind of thing. So tonight we'll talk to Graham Hall. We'll catch up with him, and then the Iron Duke has got some things he wants to talk about. I spoke with him earlier. He wants to take a look at the SEC. What do we see? I mean, look at the team itself. What we didn't expect. We were chastising the offensive line here just a few weeks ago as being the weakness of the team, especially after Kentucky. And the offensive line, I ran one play back 10 times and watched it. The Jordan Scarlett touchdown, 48 yards. I looked at got the numbers of the key blocks. That thing was blocked so beautifully. How about the fake punt? Right out of Urban Meyer's playbook. Exactly the same kind of thing they ran. And so, obviously, Dan Mullen learned at the feet of a pretty good coach, and he has some of the same philosophies. Dan's a very smart guy. Like I say, he's a chess meister. He's playing chess, and they're playing checkers. So Dan Mullen has been the X factor here. I think we all know that. So tonight, we'll take a look at that. We'll talk to Franz about what do you see? Look at the dumpster fire in Auburn. Oh, my goodness. Look at all that money that Gus Malzahn got. And look, it's about $1 million a game. It's costing him to win a game. I mean, he right now, except for that buyout, he'd probably be gone at the end of the year. But because they would have to pay him out $49 million, they're stuck with him, okay? And, and this is what's happened. I mean, this thing can go south in a hurry. In a hurry. And as we've seen it happen, other schools, South Carolina is right on the precipice. The bottom could drop out up there, too, for Will Muschamp. On the other hand, we've got the Kentucky story. LSU's gotten rebirth. Looks like LSU now is challenging to become the second best team in the West. But can they sustain it? And they got a tough schedule. So a lot of things are still on the table, and then there's Alabama. And even Alabama, with Tua getting injured. And you see how vulnerable teams are. A couple of players can get hurt. Things can go wrong. You can get bad calls in the game. And oh my gosh, I was so infuriated at the play and the call and the unsportsmanlike conduct. But you can argue about whether Voshan Joseph, that was, he used his helmet or what he did, and Franz thinks it was shoulder to shoulder. But let's say he did, even it. What kind of stupid rule penalizes an individual for team unsportsmanlike conduct? And I guarantee you, not many people, including coaches, knew that rule. That's got to be changed. Can't have that. No wonder Voshan Joseph went nuts on the sideline. He got kicked out because some really smart official thought, well, we'll just do a little even up here and get us unsportsmanlike either way. It's like no harm, no foul. Yeah, there was a foul. Yeah, Joseph got kicked out because it became a second one for him. That's a horrible rule. So let's hope that gets fixed. That's just something that could have cost Florida the game, by the way, or their best players going down. So there's that, all right? And then in just a minute, we'll be calling our friend Graham, checking up on that. I want to go through here and talk about things like conditioning. How important is that gotten? I noticed Dan Mullen said that the team was getting tired mentally and physically. The SEC schedule, that's why the SEC is so darn hard to play in. Because it'll exhaust you mentally and physically, especially road games. Going to Tennessee, going to Nashville. By the way, Florida doesn't play outside the state the rest of the way. And I think if you look at all the Vills, as long as they keep winning in the Vills, think about it. Tallahassee didn't have a Vill, does it? They'll be in good shape, including Gainesville. So we'll see Jacksonville being the big one. So we will talk about all those things tonight. We'll take here's a little stat I thought was interesting. Talk about the defense, all right, which we are talking, they are really, I talked to Bubba today, and Bubba and I were talking about this, and said, this defense has been so good, and it's a go-to defense, which can bail you out. Listen to these sets, through 6 games this year, through the 6 games, all right, Let's not count last week. Gators had 20 sacks, 11 fumble recoveries, 24 pass deflections, 6 interceptions, 1 touchdown, and 17 takeaways. And that's before the win. So this defense is really checked in there. So I'll just go on and put some comments up by you, and we'll do a couple of commercials and go get our friend Graham, and we'll make this thing work tonight. It's going to be a fun couple of weeks here. Plenty to talk about. By the way, remember, we call it the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. So just good evening to you, Bill. Nice to see you. We'll see who else has got a comment to make before we go to break. Yeah, Kevin says it will always be the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. And I understand why, but look, I heard Pine Bomb show today, and the producers told Paul, you can't use that anymore. Why? Well, we're not allowed to. Who doesn't allow you to use it? The police? There's no SEC rule. Come on, man. People get browbeat sometimes. Good evening to Jack from up in Atlanta, Philip, Brian, Ramon, in Jacksonville, John in Jacksonville. You know, our third largest city is Jacksonville. We have our Gator Nation Kingdom, which is right at 5,000. Is Gainesville, Ocala, Jacksonville, Orlando, Tampa, St. Pete, and we have them all over the place, including China, Alaska. Ice cold water tastes awfully good tonight. So, so we'll say good evening to Courtney, Alexander, Ken, James, Mike. Mike's always got a good stat. Florida, one of only 4 teams to win the 3 true road games in the nation so far. Interesting point there. Yeah. I don't know the answer, John, to this. What's Mullen's record with successfully executed trick plays? I don't know, but it's pretty good, isn't it? And we were talking tonight about whether that was a call play or a center's option. In my opinion, based on what I know from Urban Meyer, which is where it came from out of his playbook, it's a little bit of both. I mean, you can send the playbook, make it a certain look, and they can call it, or I guess there's an option for the punter. I know what they're selling on TV, but I got to check that out. Kevin, resilience is a good word, fits his team. Resilience, I've been saying all year long, resilience. I would say, Keith, 21-3 looked bad. I'm going to go through my whole list of things, and moment of truth, and what have you, and big plays, etc., and we'll talk about that. So those are some of the things. Let's take a quick break. Let's hear from Daniel L. Hightower.
No one ever plans a car accident. Having a plan after you've been in one, however, can make a world of difference. Daniel L. Hightower has been fighting for accident victim justice in Ocala and statewide since 1976. After meeting with Dan and his team, you'll know your case matters, that you matter, and that Dan will fight hard to get you just results. If you've been severely injured through no fault of your own by a careless or reckless driver, you need Daniel L. Hightower.
It's 1976, one of my favorite places. I did not go there tonight for my wife's birthday. Happy birthday, Joni. She's 29 again. This is a place I'll be going this Friday night. One of my very favorite restaurants all over the country, and that would be Mark's Prime Steakhouse and Seafood. You can look at that and see why. I like it because of the ambiance as well. Of course, I like it because of the food primarily, because they have terrific food. And there's a certain elegance to it. And when you get in there, you know that you're going to pay a little bit more, but you're willing to pay it because it's worth it. Sometimes it's just worth a little bit more. And so when you go to Mark's, you check out their fresh seafood and their fresh vegetables, their natural vegetables, their premium wines. You look at their menu, and you look around you and you see a lot of happy people because Mark's has a commitment to have a total dining experience for you, which is something that they work hard on in terms of service, in terms of food and ambiance, etc. Call them up today in Gainesville. 2 locations to serve you. Gainesville, 352-336-0077. In Ocala, it's 352-402-0097. Complimentary valet parking. Go to marksprimesteakhouse.com. I'm coming, Cindy. Save me a table, okay? Friday night, we'll be going out with our friends. So anyway, if you haven't eaten there, try it. Mark's Prime Steakhouse is the reason they talk about the unique dining experience, because that's what you'll get when you go to Mark's there. One more word from our friends at RedStar. RedStar now put together a list of the Scott Brantley Trophy Award candidates. They are obviously going to be released here soon. The next watch list. RedStar Medical Research is known for its clinical trials, their quality work that they do, the data they gather, and the fact that they do it under the supervision of the FDA. They do some terrific work on the cutting edge of clinical technology, looking to help cure things like Alzheimer's, psoriasis, osteoarthritis, migraines, fibromyalgia, along with many other conditions that affect our community. Since RedStar's been there since 1998, they've been in over 600, maybe close to 700 research trials, continue to partner with prominent pharmaceutical and biomedical companies. Check them out. If you want to be a part of the trials, you can call them in Ocala at 352-629-5800, or go online and visit them at www.redstar.net. RedStar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. All right, let's see what our buddy is up to, Graham. I know he was planning to go to at one point to Nashville and had to call it off at the last minute. So we'll see what Graham is up to and what his thoughts are on this team. Here they are, halfway point and looking good. Whoever thought, we'd be talking like Florida had a real chance of winning this game against Georgia, not one, and a very good chance, I might add. So, and one that I think has got us all kind of excited. Who knew we'd have a week off and we'd be talking about the world's largest outdoor cocktail party in the game that Florida now can see is eminently winnable. And we're going to take a look at the standings in just a moment as we get Graham up here. Good evening, Graham. How are you?
Hey, buddy. How you doing? Can you see me?
Not yet, but you'll get here in a second. There you are there. Yes. How are you, my friend? Good to see you again. And
yeah.
Let me get you up on the screen. There you are. So quite an interesting weekend, and a ball game that I'm telling you, Gator fans their guts were churning.
Sure.
I went through not my play-by-play, I didn't keep a hold of it, but I went through my notebook, and I marked down big plays and moments of truth, and and you go back, and it's not till you look at your notes and see with 6 minutes or something to go in the third quarter that Florida was losing this game. I mean, they were in the game, but things were not turning at all, and it looked very much like this was that egg that everybody expected they might lay. People said, well, there he goes. Felipe Franks showing his true colors. What were your thoughts watching that game?
I think my first thought, and like you said, I couldn't make the trip last minute. Unfortunately, Nashville's a lovely city, but, it's good to be back here in the state of Florida for the rest of the year. And before I start, buddy, I just wanted to wish happy birthday to your wife, Joni, as well.
Oh, thank you.
I saw it today. That's awesome. My first thoughts were, and I think it's what everyone was kind of thinking, was McElwain and Muschamp probably wouldn't have been able to pull them out of the 18-point hole. I mean, you saw that it was the largest comeback on the road, tied the largest comeback on the road in Florida history. Scott Strickland actually spoke up in the presser after the game and said that he was working at Kentucky when Florida pulled that 18-point comeback. They were also down 21-3 in that game, came back to beat the Wildcats. I was starting to think when it got up to 21-3 that, oh man, this is a big loss for them. But from scouting Vanderbilt, like I said, I had come in here and saying that if Florida had like a Tennessee type performance where they created multiple, gave up the ball multiple times, and Vanderbilt was able to get some turnovers, that it could be a bad game for sure for Florida, and they did that. The 2 turnovers in the first half, the bad fumble by Felipe, and then you can debate whether the interception was on him or not. Mullen said he's not going to blame his quarterback. He said the fumble was terrible, but he's not going to blame his quarterback. It got tipped, whatever you want to say. Vanderbilt responded, 98-yard drive. It certainly had the makings of, the letdown, the trap game, whatever one wanted to call it. But, after the game, maybe they were kind of pressured into answering the question this way, but a lot of the players said that scuffle there with a minute and 47 seconds left in the second quarter, that did end up sparking, LaMichael P. Ryan's 63-yard reception, and Florida ends up, cutting it to one possession when it was, moments earlier had been an 18-point deficit, does speak to how they did rally. They kind of came to life. They were kind of like zombies in the beginning, whatever you want to say, going through the motions.
Sleepwalking.
Needing that bye game, looking ahead to that bye week, thinking what you're going to do, what you're going to eat, how you're going to relax, you're going to get some sleep. You start thinking about that, and that can be very caustic. It can be very poisonous. And Florida saw that firsthand, and they kind of needed something to wake them up. And I think it was, James Houston, sending this guy's soul flying from his body, and Boshawn Joseph, in everyone's eyes on the sideline, unfairly being kicked out of the game for a pretty ludicrous sideline, unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on everyone. I mean, if that had happened again in the game, would they have just ended the game right then and there? I don't think anyone got an answer. The SEC looked pretty bad, I would say, on Saturday for letting that happen in general. And, that kind of boiled over because, I think both sides identified that the officiating was pretty poor. Up until that point in the first 28 minutes or so. Certainly Florida fans felt that way as well, but I think that even an unbiased perspective could have said that Florida was getting penalized more unfairly than Vanderbilt was, and so on. And but that second half, outscoring them the way they did, 34-6 the rest of the game after going down by 18 points, that is what I think that the team needs to go back and watch. They can't rest on their laurels this week. They got to rest while focusing on preparing for Georgia, and they can't read too much in to Georgia losing to LSU, because then you start thinking, oh man, I can beat this team. Instead, they need to approach it as the team that opened a 21-0 first quarter lead on them last year.
Yeah, that is a good point. I'm not, me, I'm not one to get riled up about officiating. I try to have a modicum of neutrality at least. So I don't see everything through orange and blue glasses. I rarely comment on the officiating. But, I watched the number of holes in that game. Vanderbilt's offensive line took holding to a new level. It was blatant. And I've heard a lot of officials lately. I heard an SEC official talk about it 2 weeks ago. I spoke at a club here, and this guy does big-time games. And he said he'll let it go. He said as long as they keep their hands inside. Well, some of it was pretty blatant. There's a reason that Polite and those guys, Zuniga, were not getting to the passer. They were being held a lot. Yeah. And they didn't call that. Okay, so you chalk that one off and say, okay, that's one. And then the number of calls were lots. I don't know what the number was. I'm going to say it had to be like 8-1 at some point in time is my guess. Sure. All going again. And that happens sometimes, but it didn't seem like it was very balanced. And even Mullen, who doesn't normally say anything about that, started complaining about getting it evened up a little bit. And then it probably wasn't the officials' fault, but it was. When you have a rule like that, and you could maybe discuss or argue Boshawn Joseph hit, I get it. The announcers made it sound like he totally was wiping the guy out. The offensive player was still running, by the way. And in that tackle, he was pushing. Joseph was unnecessary rough. But the offensive player had a role in it. So let's just give that one to the refs and say, okay, they call that unsportsmanlike. All right. But you don't agree with it, they call it. Now, to have what happened with the Vanderbilt team coming on the field all the way over as they did, and then have the coaches shouting at each other and having an offsetting unsportsmanlike conduct, that's not offsetting. Not when one team loses a player. That's the dumbest rule ever, that a guy could get kicked out for a team foul like that. That's awful. And so that's got to be fixed. So, and Florida could easily have lost that game over it. So at that point in time, it got ridiculous. And so, I got steamed about that. I just don't like the inequity of something like that. But they dodged the bullet. They maybe grew up a little bit, learned a lesson. As you said, they sleepwalked. And the way they were playing, they weren't just fumbling the ball. They were just like, it was discombobulated. They couldn't even hold the ball the way they were fumbling. It was awful. So maybe it did galvanize them. I don't know. But whatever it was, they needed something. If that's what it took, then fine. In the end, they won the football game and won it. As I said, despite our anxieties, they seemed to beat Vanderbilt all the time anyway, no matter what. So, but that was a scary day. So now what? Let me take you back to a couple of moments, and I want to get your comments on them, all right?
Definitely.
Let's go back to let's skip forward to some of the things the minor things that we could call the question whatever. We talked about John Joseph. Let's see. Well, obviously, we talked about the Joseph suspension and whatever. The McPherson fake punt. Textbook Urban Meyer. I've seen it happen, called 2 or 3 times. There's some debate about whether that play was audible by the punter or whether that was really part of the. I can't see they put that in the hands of a punter to make that decision, although it's in the playbook, and I suppose they could. But he made a heck of a run there, and that was such a huge. If you go back and look at the video, which I've done several times, Franks had just badly overthrown Pirine on 3rd and 7. Which didn't look good at all at that point. It couldn't get through. And that play turned the game around. That was a brilliant call, executed brilliantly by McPherson, and one that, again, chalk it up to Mullen. Great play calling makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think it was Tommy Townsend on the fake punt.
I'm sorry. I said McPherson. Obviously, McPherson kicks. Yeah. McPherson's a field goal kicker. I'm sorry. Yeah, Tommy Townsend.
It's like McPherson. It's only his 7th game. Even bigger shoes to fill. I can't think of. Obviously Florida didn't practice special teams too much, but Johnny Townsend never really let it loose like that. Tommy looked very confident on that run, and you never want to see your punter. Of all people, any of those guys, but especially your punter or your quarterback. You never want to see them run right into contact. And Tommy showed no fear picking up those 18 yards. And what happens? 3 plays later, Franks hits Van Jefferson, I think, on a 38-yard touchdown.
What a cut! What a cut he made on that play, man.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I've been saying that they should be using him more outside, just because on his routes he gets inside the DB so much better than I think anyone gives him credit for, and that just shows how much farther along he's at than some of these guys, because he's had a legit wide receivers coach. All discredit to Kerry Dixon in a sense, but Van Jefferson is a guy who can easily make guys miss. He has ideal size and speed for his position. Once you get him open, he can do that. But sometimes when you have a quarterback like Franks, you only get 3 shots every drive if it doesn't work out. And I think they just needed a little bit of juice to show that, hey, we can outsmart these guys. Running a fake play, a trick play on Vanderbilt, who is considered to be, maybe
smart
not the
team,
most athletic, but if they're going to beat you, they're going to beat you through their game planning, their intelligence, their sniffing out the football, having smart guys like that. Beating them on that fake play, running that trick play against them, running that effectively, making it so they can't even pick that up. That's major credit to Dan Mullen. I think someone was saying earlier that they hadn't seen a Dan Mullen trick play fail this year. I think that's right. I think that one was an incomplete pass, but there's never been one that's been blown up or for a loss of yards.
Or 4th down, yeah.
Okay, we live to do another play.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I like how Townsend was scrapping at the end, but still fighting, and then he got going a little tate-a-tate with one of the Vanderbilt players. They showed a little fight there. It was good. So it was huge. Obviously, I would say that the kicking game is in good hands with Townsend and McPherson. That looks awfully good. Those guys again came through, and then of course you mentioned the touchdown pass. Here's the thing I wrote in my notes. With about late in the third. They handed the ball off twice to Scarlett. And I said it because he'd gotten dinged earlier in the first half. And he didn't look very good.
Yeah.
He wasn't hitting the hole very, very well. And I wrote in my notes, Scarlett has got to start hitting the hole quicker. Next play, boom. He's off running. And he goes 48 yards. And I wrote down the numbers of the guys who made the blocks. And I went back to lock and watched it several times. That play was so well blocked. And the offensive line, they just took a bead and they blocked it perfectly. And I want to be sure to mention those guys because I think that was a beautifully executed running play. And Florida's running game, let's be honest about it, that's been the strength of this team on offense, certainly. And so I looked at the numbers and I wrote them all down here. Let's see, make sure I get them all. Tyler Jordan, Jawan Taylor, Nick Buchanan, and even Fred Johnson. How about that? All got key blocks, and he took off and ran, and he's got pretty good speed. Once his initial burst isn't all that fast, but in the open field, he turns on the juice, he can go pretty good.
Yeah, I think, echoing that sentiment, I think Jawan Taylor had probably the best game on the offensive line, in my opinion, from what I saw. I went back and rewatched some of those runs, and usually he is, you can pull as an offensive lineman. If you can pull, you're going to go very far. But his ability to disrupt what the guy next to the guy who his assignment is doing is going to get him a fat NFL paycheck. I mean, he's helping Fred Johnson out by pushing the defensive end into the tackle. And if you go back and watch those, the times they spring out, it's because Taylor and Johnson are double teaming the opposing rush. And that's, you look at that, and that is, that's huge for Florida. And your point about Jordan Scarlett, I think I've said it before. I don't know what exactly 100% is what it is. People have said the rust. He missed, all of last season. He's getting used to a new coach again. Blah blah blah. All the excuses because they don't seem to be affecting LaMichael Pirine. But the big thing that I keep coming back to is when when you're a guy like Jordan Scarlett, who's a very big runner, hard to tackle, but doesn't have the initial burst, like you said, that is going to get him downfield quickly, like Dameon Pierce has.
And even Pirine's got a pretty good quick first step too.
Yeah, definitely. I think I would say that of all three of the backs, I would say that Jordan Scarlett actually is. It's obvious he's the most timid to hit the hole, but it's because often that hole changes by the time he gets to it. So his run style is to kind of, people call it dancing, but it is kind of he's buying time while picking up momentum. As a bigger hole gets created or he realizes he's going to have to cut outside, he's already moving in place. And when you are running, a power run scheme the way that Florida's doing it, where that hole is supposed to develop immediately, a guy like Jordan Scarlett, who in his first 2 years was doing it completely differently, maybe he's having a little bit harder time adjusting than we thought, and he has had a tougher time in practice than those other backs. But his sheer physical talent combined with his breakaway speed eventually, it's hard to keep him off the field because you saw what can happen. But getting through the holes, finding the holes initially right, that he's not that breakaway back for Florida, but he can get you those third down situations. I could easily see him being a third down back in the NFL, but that initial burst of speed, he's still missing that
for sure. And of course, the Freddie Swain touchdown extra. Freddie's having such a good year. He's Mr. Reliable. He really is. He's done a great job on the returns, and he's a go-to. And so many receivers. All right, final thoughts from the Ministry of Information tonight as we prepare. Looking at Georgia, what do you see there? We saw the offensive line that's vulnerable to obviously to LSU. We saw that Jake Fromm is not ready for prime time. You can't put the ball in his hands and the game on his shoulders because he can't carry it. We saw that DeAndre Swift is not the second coming of Herschel. And while Georgia's very talented personnel-wise, by the same token, you got a team that isn't all that gelled, and there's a chink in that armor. So I think what we're looking at, I don't even know what the line will be. I think we're looking at a more than a puncher's chance for the Gators. And who would have thought, Graham, we'd be talking about them being 6-1 now with a chance to go to the top of the SEC East. I guess they'd be ahead of Kentucky, wouldn't they? Yeah, they would be. And giving Georgia another. What's your thoughts about that? And is this real, or are we imagining this?
Sure. Yeah, you brought up a lot of good points. A lot to cover. First one on Freddie Swain. All the talk is, it's kind of like the grass is always greener mentality. People were lusting over, Trey Grimes and Van Jefferson. It turns out that those guys, Freddie Swain and Tyree Cleveland and Josh Hammond, maybe they just needed some really good coaching, because I would say that they have been Florida's three best wide receivers, with Van, probably in the mix there, then Trey right outside as well, Kadarius Toney. Florida, had some very good guys in their roster, and, they just needed to get a quarterback who could get them the ball, and Felipe's done that. And then, Georgia, you look ahead at them, this bye week has always been right before. Anytime you're a team like Georgia and you're coming off a loss, you never want it to be right before your bye week, because that's even longer, that you're itching to get back on the field. You want to prove people wrong. Everyone's writing about how, maybe Georgia isn't, everything you just said. Maybe they don't have a legit quarterback. Maybe they don't have, even though they signed a top 3 class for the last 3 years, maybe those guys aren't going to replace the 35 seniors, blah, blah, blah. Jim Chaney's out, blah, blah, blah. All those things, they're reading those things, and that's, bulletin board material for them. They're getting this underdog mentality now that fueled Florida for the last 10 months, and that can be kind of a scary situation to go into. If you're Florida, you can't rest on your laurels. You can rest, but you can't, think that you're going to be playing a Georgia team that got exposed in any sense. Like I was saying, you have to keep thinking that they're the team that, went up 21 points on you in the first quarter at Everbank Field last year. You can't be going in thinking that you're going to stop their run game. Now, evaluating Georgia, yes, they have a quarterback controversy. Kirby made some very interesting comments after that LSU loss, saying that he believes Justin Fields could run the whole offense, which is a pretty good indictment. He hadn't said that yet. That's an indictment of where he sees Jake Fromm, I guess, because while he said that Jake Fromm is their quarterback, he has pushed to say that Jake Fromm needs to improve in other areas. So it's more than possible that they go out there and start a freshman quarterback, which is very, very tough of a situation to be in, but it's very possible that they're in that situation. Remember Jake Fromm did beat up Florida last year, and now it could be a different quarterback in there for them as well. I think that, Florida needs to prepare extremely hard for this team. Think of them as the team that's number 2 in the country, not number 8 or whatever they are. And like you said, who would have thought Florida would be here? I did think they'd go 9-3, but I didn't think they'd be 6-1 at this point. I didn't think that they'd beat all those teams on their schedule. I thought they would lose to LSU most likely. I thought they would lose to Mississippi State. It was very possible that this team is sitting here 4-3 if things don't go their way, if they don't rally at Vanderbilt last weekend, if they aren't, if they don't believe that they can win those games. So, I think that Florida needs to not get too cocky. They need to embrace what they've done so far, and they need to get some good rest this week. But this week and next week, you have to prepare for the opportunity in front of you. Kentucky and Georgia still have to play. So if Florida beats Georgia, they still would need Georgia to then beat Kentucky or Kentucky to slip up elsewhere in the SEC for Florida to win the SEC East. So there are some timelines here to watch as well. But you know what Dan Mullen's been saying all along, next game up, and that's Georgia. But right now they got to focus on some rest because those first 7 weeks pretty much verified what they did for the last 8 months, and that's been work. And now it's time to do a little resting.
Speaking of which, Nick Savage's conditioning program, we made much of that, obviously, and it's certainly very important. I was a little surprised to hear Mullen say after the post game, our guys are tired mentally and physically. I hadn't thought about it, but it's the perfect time to have a rest. As you say, get your nutrition, get your rest, get ready for Georgia. It came at the perfect time. Do you have any idea what the schedule is this week? Some people are asking what's ahead for the team, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, we'll be talking to Felipe Franks and a few other players tomorrow, R.J. Raymond, Elijah Conliffe. We'll be talking to them tomorrow around 6:45 after practice. They are practicing this week. It's business as usual, a little bit lighter in a sense. They are emphasizing resting. So tomorrow they are practicing. I don't know if they practiced today, actually. We won't find that out till tomorrow, but I believe they did. If not, they definitely had team meetings. So, but tomorrow definitely they're practicing. It's a week that, historically, in the NCAA, there are no off weeks. It's a bye week, but you're just not playing anyone. You have to still keep preparing. Otherwise,
Yeah, here's a good point. Just to let you go. Len Tent, I'm here. You there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I thought I lost you. Len Tendall, one of our more intelligent football fans, brings this interesting stat up.
Sure.
Jake Fromm has 3 more passing yards than Franks, 3 less touchdown passes, and been sacked 4 more times versus teams with losing records. Pretty good stat there. Pretty good job of coaching there with a guy that everybody thought wouldn't make it through the first couple of games. Graham, it's great talking to you. I hope we'll catch up to you later again in a week if you're around, unless you're going to the beach or something, which you might be doing there.
No rest.
No beaches this week?
Yeah. I'll be doing some stuff. I talked to Danny Warfel over the weekend. That story will be on Gator Sports about his Desire Cup.
Yeah.
It's the golf event that benefits the 9th Ward in New Orleans, his Desire Street Ministries. Spurrier's going to be there. They're hoping to match the $300,000. So I talked to him about that, and then my column for Gatorade Magazine coming up is all about, Florida, what we just talked about, Florida resting, but, still preparing and trying to do that. So I appreciate coming on, buddy. Hopefully catch up with you in the rest of the week. And
for sure. And one of our people, Steve.
Go into a bye week.
Yes.
Talking about That would have been terrible.
Yes, you're right. Going to a bye week plug by loss would have been a long 2 weeks. Steve Flappin, one of our guys, said thank you to us, tell you thank you for sending you a message and the prayers that you sent for his son. He said he really appreciates it very much.
Yeah. Please. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Hope you're doing well.
Graham, you're a good man. Appreciate it, buddy. All right.
Thanks.
Talk to you later in the week. All right.
See you later.
Graham,
see you, buddy. Take care, GNK.
Thank you. It's a good young man right there. So, all right, so let's get a little business out of the way, and we'll go talk to the Iron Duke. Let's talk about CD Farms. I got to get back with Tracy and Chris and update these photos. These are some old photos that we had of the Gator Walk deal. You can see Tracy and I and Chris having a good time there. We had a little gathering not too long ago. Last weekend we had a gathering for the LSU game, and it's nice to see Tracy and Chris. They, of course, have CD Farms. We haven't talked too much about it lately because they're getting ready to do their fall veggies, and they also still have this opportunity for you if you want to know about you want your own homegrown pork or beef this holiday season. You can get CD Farms to raise your hog or your cow or your steer if you'd like. Come down and see them, and they feed on pasture fed. They're right there, produce healthy, happy animals, and they raise the old-fashioned way. So you need to know more about this. You can get a whole hog for $250 and a half hog for $150. It's really a more expensive way to get quality meat, all pasture fed. So check out, go to cdfarmsflorida.com and check out what their opportunities are. And they'll also have some deals this fall, which you want to get involved in. There's some terrific veggie baskets. They put out some great greens for you, freshly picked out of the ground right there in Archer. So check it out, CD Farms Florida. Tracy and Chris, two of our original members, good people. We'll be sure and check it out with them. One more note, let's talk about Center State Bank, my local bank. Just there the other day, checking in with my folks. I like it because it's not just a bank. It's certainly that, and they have a lot of good core values like being locally market-driven, and they have world-class service. They have relationship banking they believe in, faith and family. By the way, they have 82 locations in 30 Florida counties, plus some in South Georgia, including Ocala, Gainesville, by the way. And they're a place you can go for banking. You also can go there and you can rent this beautiful place. You don't even rent it, actually. You can use it as long as you pay for the cleaning of the second floor for special events like weddings, etc. Our quarterback club meeting is held there preseason. We had Megan Mullen there. And they're community people. That's why they say Center State Bank, centered on community and customer service. Go online at centerstatebank.com, find out one nearest you. This is my bank, located at Silver Spring Boulevard. Ocala, call them at 352-368-6800. Center State Bank, centered on community and customer service. Okay, it's time for the Iron Duke. And we're going to go over the schedule and actually go over the some water here. We're going to go over the SEC standings and take a look at what's happened there to this league. What do we think was going to happen, and what has happened? What's transpired? Well, we know Alabama's still Alabama, that's for sure, among other things. We already know the Florida story certainly well enough, and we'll talk about some of the other teams. There are some things that have gone south, certainly at Auburn, Alabama. Oh, my goodness. Some friends of mine were there over the weekend, and Auburn graduates. It must have been miserable because it's not a good time to be an Auburn Tiger, although it's a really good time to be a Florida Gator, as the world's largest outdoor cocktail party is about to be played in 2 weeks, and this guy will love it if he sees those Georgia Bull, what do you call poodles, go down to defeat. Nobody will be happier than Francis Beard, the Iron Duke. Hello, Franz.
Yeah, good evening. I would pull for Al-Qaeda against Georgia.
Are they playing football, Al-Qaeda?
If they did, they'd beat my team over Georgia.
Oh, boy, you're a bitter man. I know you hate that Georgia Bulldogs. Can I get you to turn your volume up just a hair, if you would, and get in here and talk to us about what you saw over the weekend? We had a good show Friday, Franz and I did. We did a little pop-up show, and we spent about a half hour with folks and got a lot of comments. And and Franz has some good things to offer up. Well, tell me the final outcome of this thing now that you had a chance to think about it. I went back and did circles through some of my big plays and thoughts of players, and one thing that strikes me is that players continue to pop up and make big plays, a la Tommy Townsend. On defense, you have somebody step up and make a big interception. It's a big play somewhere. And these guys have a big play mentality. They're always in it because they have this big play mentality, and their defense has been really the most unexpected, surprising asset this team has had. No one knew this defense would be this good. Give me your feelings about all that right now, and then we'll start talking about this conference and where it is now and where it might be going.
Well, one thing that I think that is critical here is this is a team that, even though they were down 18 points, they didn't give up on themselves. And, this last year they would have tucked they would have put their heads between their legs and kissed their butts goodbye to be down 18. But whether it's Mullen, they have so much confidence in Mullen, or just that Mullen is inspiring that much that they have that much confidence in themselves because of Mullen. There is a confidence factor there. There's a chemistry factor there that's between the coach and his players. And it's amazing what's going on there. Confident teams make big plays. Go back to what you were talking about. Confident teams make big plays. Teams that lack the biggest difference between a team that makes big plays and a team that doesn't, more often than not, is confidence. Because, if you're in the SEC, you're a pretty darn good football player, and whether you're at Vanderbilt or Arkansas or Florida or Alabama. Maybe you're not the same level as those guys say at Alabama, but you're a really good football player if you're on scholarship in the Southeastern Conference. No question about it. So if you're a good football player, what is going to make the difference? Why are you going to be able to step up and make plays when other guys don't? Well, that's confidence. Confidence means you've jumped the route. Confidence means you make the extra move and you get out there and get behind the cornerback. Confidence means you beat the left tackle with a swim move.
And you run the fake punt. And you do those kind of things too.
Well, exactly. And you know what I thought about when I saw Tommy Townsend run?
Yeah, you thought about the Arkansas game, didn't you?
I was thinking about Arkansas in 2006 when
pure Urban Meyer.
They ran the little flip play when Jamel Cornelius comes around and Eric Wilbur flips it to him and they go for 17 yards and a first down. And whereas they didn't score on that drive,
right?
It set up.
They flipped the field though.
It flipped the field. They punted the ball. The Arkansas receiver lost it in the lights. The ball hits him, and Wendy Pierre-Louis recovered in the end zone.
Yeah, good memory. Yeah.
Totally changed the ball game. That's a confident team, though. Confident teams make big plays, and we're seeing that in this Florida team. And it is a testament to what Dan Mullen is bringing to this table and what his staff is bringing to this table. I kept looking at the sidelines when they're down 21-18, and I'm seeing Billy Gonzalez and Hevesy over there. Not even an instant did I see panic on their faces. There's a difference between concern and panic. They're in there getting in guys' faces. Okay, you got to do this, whatever like this. But it's a difference between panicking. There was no panic. These guys were ready. These guys were able, and they got the job done. My goodness, what did they ever? From the moment, interesting stat, in their first couple of drives, 2 out of their first 3 drives, Vanderbilt had 173 yards. They only got 322 for the whole game. You know, and 175 of those were on the first 2 drives. My goodness, that's a defense that all of a sudden, they took ownership of what they were doing out there, and they changed the ball game. Now, people can say, well, it's because their guy got hurt, whatever like that. I don't think it would have mattered. I think if that guy, if Keshawn Vaughn had stayed in the ball game, I think the same thing would have happened, because I think Florida, I think he's talented, and certainly he showed it, but I think a lot of his exploits there in those first couple of drives had to do with Florida. Just they were on another planet. They were on Mars, and once Florida got on the right mindset and on the right planet, it was all over. By the way, let me make a public shout out before we go any further. This is Miss Joni's birthday.
Yeah.
By golly, since we're talking about kicking and coverage and everything,
yeah,
Miss Joni is absolute positive proof that Buddy Martin, back in the 1960s, I guess it was, completely outkicked his coverage.
Had a good eye. Had a good eye, man. That's the thing. Had a good eye at the plate and for ladies,
Congratulations to Miss Joni,
thank you,
and to you, buddy. For
well, I had nothing to do with that.
You've had a great partner in life for all.
I have, and she loves those birthdays, and we love having her celebrate those. But thank you, Franz. I appreciate that. You brought up an interesting point, and I want to fall short of gushing here on the football team. You mentioned the confidence, the quiet confidence. It borders on character. That quiet confidence. It borders on the kind of character of the players and the belief and conviction in the team and each other. Mullen tells them about pulling the rope, holding on to that rope, etc. He's taught them a really great lesson in a very short period of time, and I'm amazed at his ability to teach. He is one hell of a teacher and a good coach and a smart play caller. Now look, they can go out and get their brains beat out by Georgia. It can happen. They aren't that good. We know they can't do it on just skill. They got to have something else going on. But they have done a really great job of getting this team ready. Here we are, as you pointed out Saturday, bowl eligible. We're talking maybe they might get 7 wins the whole year. Well, they got 6 in the first 7 games. These guys seem to like playing together. They seem to like each other, unlike places like at Auburn. I had a guy tell me today about Auburn that a friend of his as a coach went down to Auburn 2 weeks ago. This guy's a former head coach, and he went down to Auburn and came back and told my friend Auburn might not win another game the rest of the year. That's before last Saturday. And so you look at how badly things can go for you on coaching choices. We see what's happened in other places, other decisions, certainly UCLA and Nebraska. I think they'll get it right out there. I think they make good hires, those 2 guys. But certainly there's no slam dunk. So, A, feel blessed and lucky to get the guy you got, and B, enjoy this, man. This is great stuff. And as we were talking earlier, wouldn't it have been really sucking to sit here after a loss going into an open date thinking about this game? This is such a good time, as we said, put your pedal to the metal. Never worry about pumping the brakes. It's time to enjoy being a Gator fan, and we're getting ready for the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, which should be a really great weekend.
Well, the weekend should be great, and so should the ball game, and I think Florida's going to win it. I think Georgia has been exposed. I watched that Georgia team Saturday, and they got boat raced. They got absolutely pummeled. LSU stepped up to both lines of scrimmage, and Georgia, it was like the men came to play and the boys had no answers. The men being LSU, and Georgia looked like a bunch of boys out there against that LSU team.
Yeah, they did.
Great sign, by the way. It said GEAUX, go, Coach O, OEAUX, and Joe, Jeaux, Burrow, Burreaux.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I like the one that he posted when he had his picture made next to Coach Dan Mullen is good at sports. That picture, a kid wrote a sign. He had his picture made. So, so that was fun. So Francis, let's go over this SEC a second. All right, I'm looking at the standings here today, and I was looking at it, thinking about what can I learn from this, looking at it. And, we're going down. You have to stop and think. We know what's happening in the East, obviously, and with Florida, Georgia, Kentucky. South Carolina is 3-3, could go either way. And they're 2-3 in the conference. Tennessee got that huge win. Their season would have been a dumpster fire without that. I was surprised at Missouri. I thought they'd be better. They're 0-3 and 3-3 overall. So they're not. Drew Lock has not been the player we thought he would be, and we know about Vandy, who's now 3-4. Any comments on any of those teams?
Well, Missouri is paying the price for hiring Derek Dooley. The first couple of ball games, everybody's saying, "Boy, look at this offense. We don't miss Josh Heupel at all. Derek Dooley's the answer." Well, yeah, they do miss Josh Heupel. Derek Dooley in those first couple of ball games, you and I could have coached that offense against those weenies they played in those first 2 or 3 ball games. Now they're up against SEC defenses, and all of a sudden Drew Lock is looking very average, and that has to do with the play calling. The play calling is horrendous.
Yeah.
Talk about one and dones. Derek Dooley is a one and done as an offensive coordinator. I guarantee you. Which,
as our late friend Jack Harston used to say, it comes as no surprise to this reporter.
Yeah, exactly. Tennessee. I know everybody. The Tennessee folks are saying, "Look at us, we're great again." Look what we did to Auburn. My gosh, buddy. The way Auburn's offensive line plays right now, you and I could sack the quarterback, and we've lost a step or two in our years. Auburn is really, really hurting badly. They've got Ole Miss this weekend, and fortunately for Auburn, it's the one defense that Auburn can score against, because Ole Miss's defense is absolutely horrendous. My gosh. But I will say this: if Auburn doesn't show up to play some defense, boy, I don't know if you saw the end of that Ole Miss Arkansas game Saturday night.
I saw a little bit of it. Yeah, that was Arkansas really an unfortunate loss for them.
Well, it's they're you talk about a team that may not win another ball game. They got Tulsa coming into town, and if they don't beat Tulsa, they're not winning another ball game. The rest of their games are SEC games, and if they don't beat Tulsa Saturday, it's going to be a 1-11 season at Arkansas, which is not really, really good for them.
No.
Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt is an enigma. They can do things like look really, really good, like they did in those first 25 minutes Saturday. But, Florida had so much to do with that. Florida just didn't come to play. Florida made so many mistakes. It's like you look at that interception, that first interception. That doesn't happen. Everybody's talking about what a great play call it is for a touchdown if the right tackle, Jawan Taylor, bothers to get his hands into the chest of the guy that he's blocking. He didn't do that, and the guy gets his hands up, knocks the pass down. If the offensive tackle does his job, gets his hands in the chest, that's a touchdown.
Good
pass.
point. Yeah, that's true.
Talk about what a great call it is instead of an interception. There.
Right, I agree. Okay, yeah, all right. Let me get your thoughts on the West. This is throughout Alabama. We know that she's second best. Then you got a variety, a cacophony of teams. You think that Mississippi State might be the next best team. But Ole Miss has got a 5-2 record, believe it or not. Only 1-2 in the conference, same Mississippi State. Then you got Auburn, who's been just a dumpster fire. And then Arkansas, who can't get out of its own way. So there's not a whole lot there after those first 3 teams. I mean, I would say Mississippi State's going to beat Ole Miss in the Egg Bowl, in my opinion. If Mississippi State can play a lick of defense and they don't get boat raced by that Ole Miss offense, which is awfully good, and Auburn's laying down. So it looks to me like the best of that crop is Texas A&M after LSU. What do you think?
I think Texas A&M is the kind of team that nobody wants to play in November. Jimbo has done a really, really great job with them. He's got them playing to their strengths. He's turned Kellen Mond into an
player.
SEC quarterback. We've always talked about how Jimbo really is a quarterback.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
And he is showing it with it. But the best thing that's going on with them is you look at what their defense is doing. Their defense is really, really playing well. They're only giving up 81 yards a game on the ground. And they're making people one-dimensional. And that's why they're winning ball games.
Mm-hmm.
They're a team. If I'm in the SEC West and I got to play them in November, I don't like it. Because especially if you got to play them at Kyle Field, because I don't know if you've ever been to Kyle Field or not, but you get a bunch of drunk Aggies and they can be loud and obnoxious as it gets. Jimbo's got it going there. That's going to be a program that is capable of challenging Alabama in a couple. Maybe not this year, but certainly not this year, and maybe not next year. But in a couple of years, Jimbo will have that going really well. LSU, I got to tell you what. Just when everybody starts doubting Ed Orgeron, and they did after the Florida loss, everybody's saying, "Oh my gosh, Coach O, get your bags packed. It's going to be a short time in Baton Rouge." Just when they do that, Coach O comes up with, and his staff come up with an absolutely brilliant game plan.
Mm-hmm.
They exposed Georgia. I mean, exposed them. Georgia, like I said, looked like a bunch of kids out there playing the men, and the men just absolutely dominate. What's strange is it was 36-16, which is a bad score. The score should have been 52-14. That's what the score should have been. The only reason that they didn't was because Coach O got really conservative inside the red zone, and they got they had to kick 4. I think they kicked 4 or 5 field goals in there because they got conservative. They got off track on what they were doing. They should have won that game by another 2 or 3 touchdowns easily.
Yeah. Well, we got a lot of angles to play here coming up in the next couple of weeks. Not the least of which is Todd Grantham and the grudge match against Georgia. A lot of things there to show in. And then, this LSU Alabama game, the question is, do we see some flaws in Alabama we didn't see before? Yeah, we do. We don't even know how good their defense is yet. They've had problems.
Well, I'll tell you what, their defense came to play Saturday.
They did, but they've had problems all year with that defense.
Well, look, buddy, here's the thing about Alabama. Nick needs something to gripe about.
Yeah, he does. But I'm just looking for any look. We thought Tua was invincible too. Tua's hurt, and it's not serious. He'll probably be fine. But I'm just saying things can happen even to the degree Alabama's. In football, things can happen. Now, do I think Alabama's going to win out? Yeah, I do. But I'm just saying there's always that possibility that something can go wrong, as we know in college football.
Well, there's always possibilities. The Red Sea parted 4,000 years ago. Water got changed to wine 2,000 years ago. Anything is possible.
Are you predicting that there'll be water turned to wine again in the Florida-Georgia game?
Water may turn to wine again before somebody beats Alabama this year. And I got to tell you what, that defense, people forget they lost 9 starters off their defense.
They just reloading, Franz. They just
and they come back there with all these young guys,
mm-hmm.
and these young guys are starting to figure it out. Alabama has run 4 interceptions back for touchdowns this year. There, you look at what Tua's doing. He's averaging 14 yards per pass attempt.
Mm-hmm.
He's averaging pretty
I
much
know.
almost 20 yards.
It's ridiculous stats. Yeah. He didn't play the entire game. I know all that. Well, let's enjoy this one for a few days leading up to the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. We're going to have football Friday. We pick all the other games on Friday. Talk about what we got going on there. And you got basketball coming up soon, right?
Oh, heavens, yeah. And trust me when I tell you something. The Gators are going to be really, really good. Everybody's picking them 6th, which is a very conservative place to pick them. All the preseason magazines have the Gators 6th in the SEC. I got to tell you what, they're better than that. They're going to be right there with Tennessee, Auburn, Kentucky at the top. The SEC, I would not be surprised to see 9 or 10 SEC teams in the NCAA tournament this year.
Keep us posted. Let us know what's going on. What's the first big date, first big game? We'll start talking a little hoop here in a couple of weeks. Right now, we're gonna live this one up, baby. It's it's time to rollick a little bit here for the next 10, 12 days and get ready for the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, Francis.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to going to Jacksonville, where, by the way, the Gators have won 3 of the last 4 meetings.
Interesting.
And if you add it all up since 1990, Florida has won a whole lot of football games against the Georgia Poodles. And I got a feeling, it's still early. A lot of stuff could happen, whatever like that. But I got a feeling that it's going to seem like old times, at Swamp 2 over in Jacksonville this year.
All right, Francis. Good job, buddy.
I'm looking for Ja'Kai Polite to look like Alex Brown. Alex Brown always played against Georgia. He showed up against Georgia. I mean, I'll never forget him eating Quincy Carter alive there over in Jacksonville in '98. And
great player.
Oh yeah, but I think good things are going to happen. I'm excited. This is. I think you pointed it out earlier today. I was looking at some of the stuff on the page there, that we need to enjoy this. This is a season that Gators need to thoroughly embrace and enjoy. I think, I'll give you an idea of something. Steve Spurrier was 45 years old when he coached his first game at the University of Florida. He had 21 college wins under his belt. Dan Mullen was 46 when he coached his first game at the University of Florida. He already had 69 wins under his belt. I think Dan Mullen's going to be here a long, long time. You look at what's going on and you understand why the moment Scott Strickland called, it's like Megan, he comes in after taking the call from Scott Strickland. And you were there at the quarterback club meeting when Megan spoke, and she looks at him and she says, "We are taking the Florida job." Yeah. And Dan said, "Honey, I've already taken it." I just did. Yeah. You understand why? You understand why there was that kind of enthusiasm for it.
We just love us some Megan, that's for sure. Yeah. Francis, good job, buddy.
He wants to be.
You take care. I'll talk to you later in the week. All right? Appreciate it.
Yes,
the Iron Duke is in rare form. He always is Georgia week. Thank you, buddy. All right. I want to take, if you haven't got your shirt, man, look up here on the wall. You'll see some of them over here. There. That's a woman's right there, that gray one. But the beautiful ones are the ones that, the new ones. And we've got some of those we want to show you if I can dig them up, the ones that were made especially for the last couple of weeks. And the orders are coming in. I'm waiting for my orange one. Talked to Tony yesterday. He said they're being shipped Also, some of those shirts include our elite shirts, golf shirts, which I'm looking forward to. And let's do this right now. Come back and take a look at those. Love that. These shirts are terrific, and I can't wait to get mine. I had my, matter of fact, went to church on Sunday, and my pastor said, this is Colors Day, and I didn't have my new orange shirt to wear, so I wore my blue number 1 jersey, and he said, I thought you were wearing a new Circle 15 shirt. I said, well, the one I had was dirty, and I said I didn't get a chance to get my orange one yet, but I will. And these are things that we can have a good time with later on. Let's see if I can get this in here. I've got a picture of all these other shirts. Anyway, we need to get these. This is going to be a special event. What a weekend to remember with, there's a shot of one right there. Part of what to remember the LSU victory. It's like a commemorative shirt now. The Ring of Honor, and that's the blue one. There's a beautiful orange one, which is coming up soon. We'll have that. We'll be wearing that around. If you're interested in any of this stuff, please go to allfarsportswear.com and check them out. Tony made these up special just for us, and these are going to be some kind of our trademark. You'll stand out completely differently from everybody else. Because nobody else has these but us. And this means you're part of the Gator Nation Kingdom when you wear those proudly. So there's one right there. That's a woman's shirt there. So we'll get more of them on, and we'll get the real thing on here in a couple of days, show you, give you something to get ready for your Georgia weekend. I don't know if you're going to wear orange or you're going to wear blue or whatever you're going to wear, but certainly that'll be nice. And a little bit of cool air coming in, I understand, this weekend, but it's not going to stay. So sounds like the T-shirts might be just fine, and if not, we should have some other ones in by then. Anyway, so I hope you have a good couple of days. I want to say my friend Jennifer Lay, if you're interested in getting your tailgating on for Georgia, this is a good way to do it. This is a microwave pressure cooker. Many other things she has there. If you go to jenlay.mytopword.com, and look at what she has there. There's lots of these containers that you can take. You can put them in the refrigerator. You can take your baked beans with you, or you can take your pasta, whatever you're having. Salads, they're great for that. And you never have the right kind of thing to put out there when you're trying to do your leftovers, or even to cook a meal and take it with you portably. And Tupperware is a brand name that's been around for a long time. If you want to cook an entire meal, there's a way to do it with the microwave pressure cooker. If you have other foods that you want to prepare and put in the mini containers, they have all kind of things that you can get. Christmas coming up, Jennifer's got that too. If you go to go to Tupperware Jen on Facebook, or go to this particular website and check them out. And also remember Tupperware, if you're trying to raise money for your Little League team or your football team or whatever, they have a deal where you can get 40% back toward your group. So check them out. Contact Tupperware Jen today to host a party, earn free hostess gifts, and find out about the organization thing, your fundraiser you can do for them. So go to Jenlay, JenLay.mytupperware.com, and find out, purchase your product, and search Tupperware Jen on Facebook. Tupperware is the perfect way to serve that G&K tailgate, spread, or a perfect gift for the holidays. All right, that's going to kind of wrap it up. I think that's everything for tonight. Thank you for your participation in the show. Thank you to the Iron Duke as well. And thank you to Graham Hall, who always does a terrific job. Tomorrow night, I believe we're going to have Chris Doring, and I think we're going to have David Moulton tomorrow night. And we have a few other guests that we'll get on here, that maybe go back to some of the ones we have now. Tony Barnhart's due to come up soon because obviously Florida Georgia week. Lots of stuff happening here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a good Monday night. We'll see you back here tomorrow night. Thank you.